All right, first of all, thank you so much for having all of us here. It's a great event since morning, and I think a lot of informative sessions. So I know I am carrying a bigger responsibility of interacting with gentlemen whom I feel are stalwarts in their own field. So if I can open up the session, this reforming Indian financial ecosystem and startup opportunities, requesting each gentleman with a quick round of introduction so that audience would know what exactly we are participating in our day-to-day work.
Yeah. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Balakrishnan. I am Executive Director of Geojit Financial Services. We are into retail capital market. We have an ecosystem with the fintech companies. That could be the reason for inviting me for this event. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon to everyone. Myself Jitesh. One correction. I was heading digital bank for Federal Bank. Right now, I handle a new role. I handle fintech partnerships. And basically, as some of you knowing, Federal Bank has been working with a lot of fintechs and startups for quite some time. Even if I look at the last 10 years, our mobile banking was actually developed by a startup company, which is basically a technology company placed in Cochin. And they later went on to become the technology partner for almost 30 banks in the country. Even today, we work with more than 20 fintechs at this moment. Some of them developing services, products and services for us, while we also work with so-called neobanks and other platform service providers, which I will refer to maybe in the later part of the session. So right now, earlier in 2017, we felt that, okay, as you all know, in 1994, Bill Gates said that, okay, banking is necessary, banks may not be. So we realized that, okay, it is important for banks to create a strategy that will help them to tide over similar scenarios where open banking is becoming a necessity. And 2017, we created an open banking ecosystem or a platform. And we started working with a certain set of fintechs to test the waters, and then slowly we have actually created 300 plus APIs and API bundles so that any fintech in the country can create their own products, or even they can work with the bank to create products for the bank. So in this we started all this in the digital bank vertical, and then as the number of fintechs went up, we decided that we will create a separate entity because fintechs require specific attention, special attention. Multiple departments or multiple verticals working with the fintech. Of course, fintechs wants agility and they want faster turnaround times, etc. So to bring that, to give that comfort to the fintechs, we created a fintech vertical, and we are now housed in the Kerala Startup Mission's integrated startup complex in Cochin. So we day-to-day see a lot of fintechs. Two fintechs I would like to name. One is Riafa Technologies, who are already incubated. They are incubated by Kerala Startup Mission, has developed our AI-based chatbot. That's on the other side where fintechs give services to the bank. Like they built a end-to-end chatbot from the scratch, and their CEO is here, Mr. Joseph. Plus, we have another company, Sappy Hair Technologies, who has developed an end-to-end recruitment platform. No paper. Anybody who is coming into the bank today doesn't need to fill a single paper. They no need to send any paper to the bank. It is fully digital AI-based application developed by Sappy here. These are two examples. There are many such fintechs who are providing services to the bank, school fee systems, BBPS, and many other systems. While on the other side, we work with neobanks like Jupiter, Fi, and FPL, One Card Platform, Rupeekas, Gold Loan Company, etc. So basically, Federal Bank is one bank. Since the summit is of fintech, and when Prajit called me, are you interested to participate? I definitely said yes, because we are one bank who has basically wanted to work with fintechs on both sides, where they will help us in growing our business, while we also help them to grow their business. So that's all about me. I'll hand it over to my colleague, Prasanna.
All right. Thank you so much. I am Santosh Kotnis. I think my introduction is already done. I'm a co-founder, CEO of Spring Up Capital, an early stage venture capital. We run out of both Europe and in India. So we look at early stage startups and try to look at in the ticket size of anywhere between 300 to 500k euros, so which is translating to be somewhere around 2.5 crores to 4 crores kind of a range. So look forward to have this conversation.
Hi. Yeah, very good afternoon, everybody, and great to be here at Fintech Summit 2022, that too in person, right? After a couple of years, I am meeting a lot of my friends in Kerala, Kochi, right? And been interacting a lot of startups who are sitting out there. And I could see at least 3-4 are there in the range of today who could be the unicorns in the next 3 years. The way they are interacting with the customer, the way I have engaged with them, asked few of those questions, they are up to date. So I think it's a very good future out here in Kerala. And so once again, great to be here. So I'm present at working at a DCB bank. At a DCB bank, I work primarily in 3 areas, delivering all the digital banking relevant mobile, internet, and so on. And another area is taking care of all those 100 plus, 150 plus applications as far as the architecture is concerned. And largely on the innovation side, I work closely with all the business units to drive the innovations within a bank. And outside of the bank, we work closely with the startup community, fintech community. Personally mentored more than 400 plus fintechs out there in India. I'm seeing this ecosystem last 5-6 years, working closely with JSR when it was an AP at Vizag. And thereon, we have done a lot of work at Kerala Blockchain Academy, being a mentor out there on blockchain space. IDRBT, where we are driving some decentralized KYC use cases. So I think it's a beautiful time when we talk about 2022. So furthermore, we'll discuss furthermore how it can be really engaging discussion. So I think we'll show a lot of energy on the dais. Let's look forward from our delegates and the listeners too. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon all. Like Mr. Kotnis mentioned, it's going to be a critical job for us to keep all of you engaged pre-lunch session, as we call it. So, good afternoon all. My name is Sunil Kumar. I take care of cash management system, both physical and digital, for TNKL at Yes Bank. At Yes Bank, I'll just brief about Yes Bank first. At Yes Bank, we look at catering all the requirements, be it business banking or transaction banking, or the personal side of the banking. So to keep the wheel of wealth moving, we call it BOW. So that's one initiative we have been doing. And the reason why I am here is I spearhead startup and incubation center tie-ups and collaborations for South. So we have been working with FinBlue, STPI Chennai driven incubator in Chennai. So we have been working with them for long. And Kerala Startup Mission, we have also entered into MOU, and we are looking at doing much more success stories here also. So just to name a few startups, like we have diverse startups onboarded through us. Like we have people who are doing cross-border transactions, Finara is the name, and people who are supporting fishermen for their ocean data sciences. They have developed a product for ocean data sciences, inaugural technologies. So we have a wide range of problem solvings there on the table. So we are looking forward for the discussion. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. So we have been hearing since morning that India has done a tremendous innovation in fintech or overall in banking and be it taxation and payment. I mean, of course, we just heard before session that you miss UPI when you go out of India. So this enormous amount of innovation has been done, like say digital banking, interest rate, liquidity requirements, and lending, or preserving the interest of the consumers. There is a lot of work has been done. So I just wanted to understand your point of view. That what has been changing since, say, in last 3 to 4 years? I mean, if you can take example of your own field and then try to enlighten us that what has been changing as per you, your point of view. Maybe we can start with you, Prasanna.
Yeah, I think thank you so much for initial question. I think if you divide this line of innovations which has happened in last 5-6 years, in a banking area, I think we are blessed with a very good regulator, RBI, right? Reserve Bank of India. And if you see what Reserve Bank of India said in 2013 as a part of their RBI, usually called as a payments paper, right? And they said they will drive BBPS, they will come up with a UPI, and that's how they come up with it in 2016 UPI. So it was pre-decided. It was not somebody came in and let's do it, right? So I think what we have seen in the last 5-6 years, every bank is now geared up with a kind of a digital agenda. For example, earlier there was no digital officer or an innovation officer or, as we said, fintech officers, right? Or they were not there. Now every bank who are sitting on a very good API stack, they have these kind of a people also. So what we have seen, largely people governance has changed in the last 5-6 years. Second part, which is around processes, right? What processes we laid for onboarding customers, serving customers, or engaging customers, primarily has changed heavily because of startups, fintechs, and technology the way we adopt. Third angle, which is technology, now banks are going slowly on cloud inherently. Why? Because they are adopting fintechs. And moreover, more of other technologies are emerging technology like AI or recently blockchain are now fueling this whole stuff. Fourth angle, now banks are now understanding it's a collaboration opportunity and partnership opportunity with all the tech companies and fintech companies. So earlier it was every bank has its own IT division. They used to take a lot of months to delivering some of the softwares, right? So era coming from branch banking to mobile and internet. Now here onwards, era is all upon open banking or marketplace banking. Today I might be offering some of the products through my fintech partners, but now these fintech partners has the opportunity to bring all customers on open banking. And it will not reside only for humans, right? Maybe tomorrow once 5G will come, so humans and those devices who are aligned with 5G, that's how it will be. So I think in a nutshell, what is happening, a lot of consolidation happening at a larger India level. Say example, account aggregator is coming in. UPI was the one example. All the bill payments are now aggregated under BBPS. PCR is going to come. At the same time, while we are consolidating all these platforms, we are looking at a security aspect also. Data security or the way we have seen GDPR, similar kind of data protection regulations are coming in. So I think while customer has changed, and that too in the pandemic, customer has changed heavily. So platforms are now really helping. Now that whole momentum is coming. So in a nutshell, I think 2-3 years, a customer has changed largely. And if a customer is changing, you have to also change. Otherwise, we'll be
that's a really great perspective. Jitesh, if I can pass on the same question to you, because I know you've been doing a lot of work with the startups in the fintech space and then trying to handhold these fintech startups. If I can ask you the same, or rather, if I can pick up your point of view, then what has changed as per you in your sphere?
Yeah, thanks, thanks, Santosh. So basically, what I've seen from when I compare 2017 to, let us say, 2021, when we initially started our API gateway or open banking platform to today, I think the number of fintechs or number of companies who are coming up with new ideas, new innovation, or they want to innovate in the space has actually, maybe it has gone up exponentially. Maybe earlier I used to get 4 or 5 partners who wanted to do something, but today there are hundreds of people, hundreds of companies, hundreds of fintechs who want to do very innovatively, and there is also space for all these companies. Everybody wants to do innovatively in a niche segment. Somebody wants to do it for kids. Last day somebody was asking about how can we create an ecosystem for youngsters, youth, maybe from the age of 10 to 18. How can they bring them into banking ecosystem faster? There are people thinking about senior citizen, high net individuals. We work with 2 fintechs who neobanks. Maybe the neobank term itself is not regulated, but still there are 2 neobanks Jupiter and Phi, who are creating a complete new user experience and user journey for salaried millennials and Gen Z. So the one important thing that has happened is lot of interest is there, and number two, the fintech ecosystem is receiving a lot of investments in India. It has exponentially gone 3 times in the number of investments or number of investors that has come to India. And the belief in the Indian startup ecosystem or fintech ecosystem has actually been very, very strong and very solid. And India has received most number of investments in the last 1 year. If you look at 2021 to 21 or 21-22, we can see that already it has surpassed the figures of 21. So that is number 2. And Indian ecosystem also has improved. Basically, Reserve Bank of India started the RBI Innovation Hub. The RBI also started the RBI Fintech department. So sandboxes, there are a lot of companies testing in the API sandbox. A lot of regulatory support is being received by fintechs in the country. Plus, as President has said, account aggregator is coming in, the Open platform is coming. So a lot of things are happening, a lot of support, and customers today have 100 plus crore customers as accounts. They have mobiles. Indian connectivity is so excellent, so that today people don't face the issue of connectivity. So there are supporting ecosystem for the fintechs has really grown, and banks on the other side are also getting equipped, like banks like Federal, or actually DCB. Most of these banks are actually opening their platforms for fintechs to co-create or create new products and services. So ultimately the customers are getting benefited because of these new innovations happening in the fintech space.
Yeah, I think that's the right point. I mean, I don't remember when I last time went to my bank, and I think only when it was demonetization. I think that's the only time I remember when I went to my bank for the last time physically. But I want to also get another perspective from another bank. So if you could talk about what you think has changed from your sphere perspective.
Just to start with, like you were mentioning that we don't know when we went to the branch last, right? So now it's not about going to the branch. Even people doesn't want to move from the screen. One screen, they don't want to go to the other screen for making the payment. They want everything on the single screen. So if sometimes, say suppose you are making a online purchase and your screen is redirected to the PG screen, that also is uncomfortable nowadays. So everything they want it to be on the single screen. Like if you go to a phone pay, everything happens on a single screen. So things have changed to that extent. Like Mr. Vijay was also mentioning that demand is going to be there. Fintech is there, and equally demand from the subscribers or the users is going to be there. It's not going to stop. Say you want instant, yes, it's happening instant. But if you want without data, that is also being developed now. So that is the change we are looking at actually. And from the bank's perspective, if you see, the account opening process or whatever onboarding process is there, everything has become digital now. You need not sign any forms now. There are no signature mismatches happening. Everything happens on other OTP verification. And if I have to mention about Yes Bank specifically, we have developed an online platform called Yes Connect, wherein you can even see our, just register it as a customer, You need not open an account with us, just register as a customer, and you can have our API specs for working on it. You can access our API specs for maybe Fund Transfer API or eCollect API. Any of the digital products, you can do it online. As of now, it's live for proprietorship concerns, and other entities, it will be live very soon. So that is one thing we are seeing in the digital area. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Great perspective. But while we understand the bank's perspective, I would like to also ask Mr. Balkrishna to share about what has changed from the financial services perspective. I mean, banks is one spectrum, but financial services is a completely different spectrum. So what has changed?
Yeah. Basically, in financial services, especially investment products, that means equities, mutual fund, and other products, the reach was very low in our India. Actually, customer base was very low. If you look into the data last 2-3 years, it was humongous growth. It is actually growing at a faster pace. The simple reason is onboarding has become easier. Second is the risk management and all other tools are become real time. And another thing, the lot of curated portfolios, management of portfolios, all those things. This is basically the contribution of the technology. And supported by the regulator with the sandbox. For example, Fintech can do lot of experiment, lot of back testing on their products, services, etc. And then what we do is, we are working in a regulated environment. We have a legacy, we have also compliance. Then we complement with the Fintech services. This is actually created reach. One is larger, we are actually reaching to larger mass. That is one. Second is we are able to communicate properly to the customers. Third is managing the risk well in a real-time basis. That is very important because these are risky assets. See, 2010 is an important year in this particular, because 2010 SEBI came out, SEBI the regulator came out with the regulation that okay, you can start mobile phone for using transaction. Of course, it was late, but even then thereafter, the growth in the transaction, the growth in the product creation, growth in the portfolio management, all those things actually, if you see irrespective of the market dynamics, it was really growing. And during the pandemic, it really accelerated. And the contribution of Fintech companies and the technology adoption by the providers is actually accelerated, and it created more than 100%, 200% growth in this. That is how we see this. And it is an ongoing. You see, once you get into that, there is no way to, your back door is closed. You can only go forward.
Yeah, right. I think that's a very interesting thing. So it's a one-way door. If you are going ahead, then you cannot come back. But one thing, what you just mentioned, Mr. Balakrishna, about is the regulation, SEBI, or from the investment perspective, or RBI from the banking perspective. I mean, I think, I know for a fact that these regulation bodies are there, and then that's the reason as a consumer, I go home and then sleep, because there is someone who is looking at my money or taking care of money, and which is not exactly the case in the outside market. But now, I keep hearing an opinion that there is a heavy regulation in the market. We are not here to discuss whether this is right or wrong. But what I wanted to understand, knowing this prudent regulation there, but I feel that is the opportunity for the startups, right? So wanted to take your view, Prasanna, maybe start with that when we are talking about regulation, what do you think that there could be a possibility for new startups come up with a bright idea to solve this regulation and then help the consumers and the banks?
I think what is that we have seen the current regulations by RBI or SEBI or any IRDA, it is not really diminishing ideas or any of those technologies. Rather than it is a very positive looking regulations which we have seen. What we do, any of those innovations we carry out with the startups or a fintech company, it's a combination of some offering to the customers, right? So that is how regulation plays a role, how we have to really safeguard the complete journey of a customer, starting with customer onboarding. Say example, during pandemic, if a customer is not visiting to the branch, how do we do onboard the customers? That's how I think in 2019 end, SEBI said we are okay with the video KYC, followed by RBI also, which has really helped for a bank like DCB, Kotak and Federals and all to onboard customers through video KYC. So that is came on a right time. And predominantly now this regulation which is helping some of our fintechs like Neo or Credit Avenues to onboard a customer with the help of a video KYC. That's a one example, right? Now, going back, if you see complete customer journey, onboarding, after that servicing, and then moreover data protection, regulation is all there everywhere, right? So now we need to see how next level technology like AI, blockchain can come and ease out the regulation. Rather than, say, example, I'll give an example, right? Last year, 2020, February, RBI come up with the digital payment security controls. And ask every CISO or every banker out there what they are doing now. They are developing all of their application, rather they are going back and seeing whatever they have developed across customer journey, mobile, internet, ATMs, POS, and within the data centers, are these aligned with these digital payment security controls? Inherently, whenever they talk to fintechs or startups, they ask similar questions. So it makes sense inherently, although it is a responsibility of bankers to take care of customers. So I think startups and fintechs also should study and be ready for the compliance and regulatory aspects around it. So moreover, it has always helped. We talk about the first regulation came in 2014, second factor authentication, which is not there in some of the countries, right? Although recently regulation around credit cards, which is wherein we are talking about NBFC may not go ahead with the credit cards, right? How do we, right? You talk about this peer-to-peer payment, which was there in 2017-18. So all of a sudden, all of them have become NBFCs. So regulation always comes and deliver the better experience. Now here onwards, we talk about UPI is done with the help of a regulation, right? What next? What next? That is how we are, or how do we compete for the other innovations which are happening across country? Say example, recently Finance Minister announced we are going ahead with digital rupee. So again, it's a responsibility of the banks or a company like NPCIs to bring this kind of innovations. Again, this regulation will come into picture, right? Although which technology, whether it is a blockchain or without blockchain. So I think regulation has played a major role in the last 6, 7, 8 years, heavily if you compare era before 2014 and now, and it is across. Now say example, now regulators are also now collaborating. Example, SEBI is now saying we are okay with the account aggregator.
Right.
Or we have a unilateral regulator called IFSCA, and they are promoting a lot of Web3 or kind of looking at how it has happened on a blockchain and the crypto industry being taken by other countries. Why not to have a climate sustainability kind of ecosystem within India? So regulation in India, I think they are studying what's really coming up. 5G will come, or wherein IDRBT now experimenting with a lot of bankers together, how 5G can bring a good innovations for the customers. So I think hats off to all the regulators in India and METR, Government of India, who are driving all these initiatives with the help of banks or SEBIs or IRDA. And more or less in future, what is that we will see, all these regulators will have some of those common guidelines, because it's the same customer who gets onboarded by the bank. Can it not onboarded by another insurance company with the help of some decentralized mechanism? So I think beautiful time ahead, but I think whatever we have seen, fintech, startup adoption, regulator really plays a major role, because data is something which, and banks sits in glass houses, right? And that inherently has to go to the fintechs and startups also. That's a collaboration opportunity for everybody together.
Yeah, a good part about this, Prasanna, is I was counting that you gave 3 solid startup ideas, and I think if somebody is listening to that, so he gave some solid startup ideas. Sunil, if I can ask the same question to you, what do you think, from a regulation perspective, what do you think could be new potential fintech ideas for the young entrepreneurs?
Correct. Our colleague he's covered most of the points, but if you ask me, my take would be like fintech startups or startups per se is more about problem solving. So I was also going through an article in the morning also that regulatory bodies, fortunately or unfortunately, had been giving a lot of trouble due to the process to the startups, right? So like Mr. Sandeep was telling, we already have a use case here. So any startup can jump in and they can solve this problem they can simplify with maybe AI. I'm not a technical person, but they can work around it. What can be done to simplify the processes? Setup of a startup, like one of the startup was presenting, farm to fork. So here, the startup journey also can be made much more easier and simplified. So that's one use case, like you were telling already, one idea is here. So So if any startup is listening, so you can start working on it right away. So that's my take to it. Regulations are going to be there. So how we are going to deal with it, how fintechs are going to deal with it is the question. So that's my take.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I think just to support and just to support your question, I think last year, 2000 December, right? We within DCB Bank, my MD and all the top management sat together and say what's happening, right? So, say example, so I think we come up with at least 100 plus innovations which can carry within a bank, right? Which may not be directly to the fintechs or startups, but that's an opportunity for a fintech to study what happens within a bank. In retail or trade finance or any of those units, if they start interacting, I think some of those KPMGs and Big Fours who has that larger opportunity and they come and advise very well in the banks. Similarly, these smaller chunks, like if I look at a bank as a story of 100-story units, and some of the units or some of those stories can be rented out to some of the fintechs. That's how we can look at it for, not for a long period, but for a certain period where we need a lot of efficiency, operational efficiency, some business ideas. I think that will really drive a consolidated output to bring so many innovations, right? So I think blockchain itself or AI itself will bring a lot of those ideas, and there is a lot to do in this space. It's not only payments or a digital lending, but there are a lot of other ideas who can bring.
Right. So I will continue doing my startup idea mining, but now I would like to go across financial services, and then Mr. Balakrishna, if I can ask you, what do you think brilliant startup ideas, or perhaps let's not say startup ideas, but what do you think from the financial services perspective could be a bright ideas to start building a business now? I mean, you said like mutual fund is taken care of, X is taken care of, Y is taken care of, but still there would be a niche area. So if you can think about, or if you can talk about what could be a potential business ideas.
Yeah. For example, just before our this discussion, Sony was presenting risk management, indexing and all. Basically, today in our organization, especially organization emerged over a period of time, create a circle and a perimeter. Within that perimeter, you define your problem, you define the solution. Therefore, but that need not be in tandem with the customer's problem or a prospect problem. In that sense, there are many things today actually emerging. One is on any product, any financial service, investment products, there will be underlying risk and there will be a return, which is known to everyone. Or today, that is, you can, but beyond that, selection of a product, how you can select a product. And my risk appetite need not be the same as yours. So that is also risk analysis. Risk analysis, though, today if you look into any of the portal of any investment, you are categorizing any individual into 3 buckets, either low risk, medium risk or high risk. There are many intermittent points. Within the low risk or within the medium risk or within the high risk also, you have a big range. So, and also the product, selection of a product. Today, we are selling product. Actually, they are not buying the product, we are selling product. Now, on the other hand, if you create the ecosystem with the proper analysis of your ability to invest, your ability to take the risk and position the product digitally, then the scenario may change. Then your selling methodology will change. And also, today, as Prasanna said, the onboarding is also much easier. So that side, lot of innovation happened in the last 2-3 years. I don't think anyone is talking about physical onboarding today. At least 95%, barring institutional non-resident Indians or something like that, all resident individuals are at least onboarding 99% digitally. Now next is actually you have capability to transact. But what am I supposed to do with that? That transaction, its related risk, and not in a complex manner. The financial service provider, over a period of time, their language has become very complex.
Okay.
Individual may not understand their language. That is also now all these things actually getting translated into wider reach, creating wider reach. You can have a reach without any kind of a hurdle. Second is analyze. Analysis is very important today.
Okay.
And selection, and then trigger a transaction.
Okay, okay, yeah, all right. Great inputs. Jitesh, I have a very specific question to you. If I can ask the same question, what are the startup opportunities in the lending space? Since I know these banks work, Federal Bank works every bank works in the lending space. But can you put across your thoughts about what could be a potential business startup ideas around lending space? Could be quality of lending, the way in which we are lending, the recovery, whatever.
Yeah, Santosh, thanks for the question. So basically today, on April 26, if you have read the newspapers, Government of India asked public sector banks to partner with startups to enhance the credit reach. So I hope that statement itself is the biggest use case that is present in front of all the fintechs, especially if you are interested to work with the banks. Because every bank today, if you look at the lending in India, 90% of the lending is paper-based. Very limited lending like some BNPL or some amount of PL or a very limited credit card companies do digital onboarding. Pure play digital onboarding is done by very limited number of fintechs. But lending is having huge potential, basically because, as I said, in the rural semi-urban area, before that I would like to tell you the story of UPI. When Vijay was discussing about UPI changed the way in which SMEs started or merchants started accepting payments. So if you look at every merchant or every shop you go, there is a QR code where you can scan and pay. So it has resulted in a digital footprint for all these SMEs. And this is creating an opportunity for lending. Earlier, none of these small merchants were having access to formal financial ecosystem. Nobody were able to get a loan from any of the banks in the country. They were getting 48% interest or daily 4% interest, 5% interest. They were getting money from the maybe that unregulated entities. Today it is not the case. So every merchant who is getting money into the bank account through a UPI payment or any other payment can get a loan from the bank using flow-based lending. You don't require a balance sheet, you don't require anything, but just based on the flow into the account, you can get a loan with the account aggregator and the flow-based lending ecosystem. Aadhaar is there already, the UID, India stack is there, plus flow-based lending due to the digital footprint. So lending is one of the biggest areas where today there is a demand, because most of the banks have not actually automated their entire digital system. They have not sold it, because you have a housing loan. If you want to take a housing loan, there is a property document. The mortgage has to be created. How will you value the document, value the property? There's a legal opinion to be taken. So all these are today paper-based processes can be automated, number one. Number two, selection, as you was talking about quality, selection of the borrower. How can a bank ensure that while you onboard a customer digitally, how can you ensure that this customer may not default in the next 6 months, 9 months? So use of artificial intelligence and machine learning is very important here. Can we use ethical AI and ML to ensure that the bank is able to get the best selection of customers for that? Number two. Number three, on the recovery front also, there is a lot of innovation that is required, because collections are one of the biggest headaches for banks today. How can you facilitate financial institutions to collect their loans innovatively, and again, not by force? Because today RBI has come up with a white paper on digital lending, mainly because of the unethical practices in lending in the market led by fintechs. There are a lot of fintechs giving loans, but they use unethical methods for collection, etc. But can it be ethical? Can it be more formal? Can it be transparent to the customer? These are some of the things where I think lending is one of the biggest areas where there is scope, because 90% of lending is still paper-based. So any fintech who is interested, who can create a platform which can be used by a bank. You come up with a platform where banks can come in and they can actually source loans from their existing to bank customers or new to bank customers, then that is going to be a mega success here. And of course, earlier people were talking, all of us were talking about regulation. Why regulation is important? Because banks are dealing with customer data and banks are responsible to ensure that the data is safe and secure and we are not using it or we are not giving it to third parties or anybody who is partnering with us. So that is the whole premise on which banks are working, and all fintechs should understand that data protection, data security is most important for the bank, and you have to fall in line with that. Within that framework, how can you partner with the bank and create a product, co-create a product or deliver a product? That is what you should think about. Not only lending, there are many opportunities. I work with 2 neobanks, Jupiter and Phi. They are opening savings account for millennials. They are helping them to invest smart without the need to physically go and invest. So there are a lot of opportunities in investments, lending, credit cards, PL. So the whole world is in front of you is what I would say.
Yeah, listening to all 4 of you, I'm just thinking that Indian fintech startup ecosystem or a startup journey is just beginning, and UPI perhaps is the chapter number 1. Gentlemen, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to interact with you and learn from your thought process. I really enjoyed having a conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Bruce.